Hello and welcome to Hockey Talk. My name is Jaret Schneider along with Jordan Peca. It's been a good week so far, I think. It's been
Another
an
good one for
exciting week in the NHL. Some lots of good games, some overtime games, some things like that. So back and forth. We got a great number of topics today. We'll go over some of the rule changes, some hybrid icings, some things like that, some injuries, bunch of different things, bunch of different topics. It is a hockey show, but we have the Grey Cup on Sunday, so pretty excited about that, gotta say. Pretty excited, looking forward to the Grey Cup. So we'll hear back next week how that went. Hopefully it goes the right way. Anyway, we'll kick the show off. Kind of an overall update. We're 25 games way through. We're about a quarter of the way through. Some surprises, anything like that?
I think there's a couple surprises. I think everyone knows the teams in the West, a lot of very strong teams. But if you look at the standings, the top team in the East right now is Boston. They got 29 points. And the top team in the West, Anaheim, with 33. And if you look at the way the other teams break down in the West, 29 points gets you 6th, maybe 8th place in the West. 29 points is not a lot for the West. And I think it's a bit of a surprise, actually, just how well some of the Western teams are doing. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know what? I've seen a lot of, I mentioned it before, is West versus East. They do a lot of it early on in the season, especially this year with the new conferences. You're playing a lot more. You're playing home and home on the other conference. You're actually playing more games against the other conference. And we're seeing the West dominate the East in head-to-head matchups, and that's kind of the result of why it's going the way it is. Like, you've got teams like Colorado, who before their last win had 28 points, was 8th in the West with 28 points, whereas in the East, 28 points is 2nd right now. So, yeah, you're right. I think, the head-to-head matchup has a lot to do with it. Maybe we'll see it start to even out, especially when the East starts playing each other more and the top teams start elevating from the bottom teams. We might start to see a separation. Some other teams, we got Pittsburgh, who's been playing well, had another great night the other night. They're sitting right up there with Boston. We've got Toronto and Tampa. Tampa's been a bit of a surprise so far for me. They're sitting right up in the top of that division there. Tough division, too, with Boston and Toronto.
I think it's definitely a surprise that they're still up there, considering, of course, the injury to Stamkos. He's going to be out for a pretty significant amount of time. But so far, even without him, they're still proving to be a very dominant team.
Yeah, absolutely. Even without Stamkos, they're still winning. They've lost 1 or 2 games now, but like St. Louis, they took the load. I remember the very first game after he went down, they hopped right back into it. Very exciting, to see them still up there. I like to see Tampa still do well, even though they are a Florida team, and I still like to see them do well. Maybe switching gears back to the West, you've got teams like Phoenix, very well. Colorado destroyed Chicago the night 5-1. It was 5-0 going into the third period or something. There wasn't even a game. That was kind of surprising for me. I would have picked Chicago to win that game, actually, especially off of the 3-game slump that the Avs were on. Missing Duchesne, it's kind of looked like it might have been starting to build up. We'll see tonight. They're back in action tonight against a tough Phoenix team, but the Avalanche, you got to start to see I was thinking maybe 20 games in, this is where they start to become a 500 hockey team again and maybe start
They kind of come off of their high a little bit. They
Yeah.
had a fantastic start. They might level off a little bit, but I think if anyone can keep them at that level of play, I think Patrick Waugh is the guy to do it. He's a good, aggressive coach, and I think he can definitely keep them at least playing hard, if nothing else.
Yeah, and they've got a couple of injuries. Matt Duchene's only out for a week. He's actually supposed to play on Saturday here right away against LA, or Sunday or Monday rather. So he's going to be right back into it. Alex Tanguay, who I thought when he came over might just be, a leader, kind of a scrub kind of guy. He's been the reason they started so well. He went down, they lost their 3 games. I think Alex Tanguay has actually been a pretty big part of that team so far. Like to see Nathan McKinnon step up to the number 1 center position. Actually, that was cool. Played against Chicago, put up a ton of minutes, played very well.
He did. He had a fantastic game.
Very well. Great game from him. Maybe if we go on the other side of the spectrum, we got Edmonton. Actually beat Columbus pretty well, but they've got Brizgalov now.
They do. That's a big thing. For the past few years, they've always drafted that top forward, and so they have a couple really good scoring lines, but they're still missing something on the back end. They're missing defense, and they're missing a goaltender. And now they bring in Ilya Brizgalov, and people are saying, maybe his attitude in the locker room isn't great. It might be part of the reason Philly bought him out and let him go. But at the same time, they don't have anybody else. And so, however you look at it, Brizgalov has shown in the past that he has the abilities to be an NHL caliber goaltender, and he's their best option right now, for sure.
Yeah, is he the reason? Is he going to make them a Stanley Cup winning team? No, of course not.
Probably
but is he going to help? Maybe. He might. If not, put a little bit more pressure on Dubnyk. So when Dubnyk plays his half games, maybe plays a little bit better, gives up 1 or 2 less goals, maybe gets them a few more points. Maybe they can kind of get back in it and maybe challenge for an 8 seed by the end of the year. We are a quarter of the way in, and they're pretty low down. I think they've got 6 wins and 15 regulation losses. They're quite a ways below 500 at this point. Calgary, who kind of started well, starting to plummet again. I think they've lost like 8 of their last 10 or 9 of the last 10 or something. So we'll see some things like that. Maybe in the East, some teams that are starting to slump.
Well, Buffalo still unfortunately down there. They made that trade, got rid of Vanek and brought in Matt Molson. But and again, people kind of saw that move as maybe a rebuilding move. They're going to bring in some other pieces, but I think there were obviously some fans hoping that that would be something that would help elevate them a little bit. And so far, it hasn't. They're still a bit of a basement team. The Sens as well. I've heard a lot of people use the term consistently inconsistent, and it's been true. Throughout the season, the Sens have shown flashes of really good play. MacArthur last night had a beautiful assist between his legs. He set up Kyle Turris for a goal, which was really nice. But they're just sloppy in their own end. They don't back check, and they're out of position defensively. And the Sens actually got by a lot last year on above average, phenomenal goaltending. And this year their goaltending is just average. So they're kind of bouncing around the bottom there. So it's a little unfortunate to see. But again, still only 20, 25 games in. They have some time to turn it around. And I heard that Brian Murray's looking to make a trade. And he's looking to bring in another top 4 defenseman to try and fill that hole. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see. I mean, I've watched a couple of the last Sens games, and some disappointing losses, I think. They blew a couple of leads. Not huge leads, not 5-goal leads, but they were in games right till the end and unfortunately lost them both in regulation, which is extremely disappointing. 0 points out of a possible 4, especially in the way it's new set up now. I think every point's going to be very valuable, especially with just the way it is set up. And you got the 2 wildcard teams that are going to start to shift. So we'll see if Ottawa can kind of bounce back into it. Boston's starting to win games again. They're starting to take over. They started slow. They're starting to really take off. So they're kind of getting back to the way they were. You mentioned they're leading the whole Eastern Conference. Now maybe if we jump into some of the rule changes, we've got the hybrid icing. I think to this point, I like it. I've seen what I've seen from it, and I like, because what you've noticed to this point is there's been no injuries, obviously. With the other icing, maybe there would have been an injury, but it's preventing the option for an injury. I haven't watched a game yet where I've seen a dangerous play, and that's exactly what they wanted, and it's not taking away from the speed of the game.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you see guys racing really hard to that line right around the face-off dot, and so you still get that pressure. And then, of course, if the defenseman beats that race, the icing is called. And so, of course, you see the guys slow down before they ram into the boards. And again, like you said, it speeds up the game a little bit because you just have that time where the guys aren't racing the full way. They race, half, 3/4 of the ice, and you move on to the next play. So I wasn't sure exactly how it would work, how the teams would adjust to it. But so far, I think it's been a great adjustment. Yeah,
and I think there was kind of maybe a little bit of controversy, whereas let's say they shoot the puck down and they're racing for it. The forward gets to the dot first, they wave it off. What, are they still going to race for the puck altogether? And no, they haven't. I've seen times where they beat it out, and the defenseman kind of plays back and plays positionally, lets the forward get in there as he's beating him to the puck. But instead of going in there and slamming a body or trying to chip the puck real quick, he's kind of laying back, and he's letting him come into the corner and play the puck and just play positionally, which is taking away from the risk as well, which is what I like to see on the icing, because I don't want to see guys go in there and get hurt. Obviously, we've seen some injuries this year, but we don't see any guys flying into the boards and breaking legs and missing the entire season. Obviously, flying into the post and breaking a leg is a bit of a different story with Stamkos.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for sure.
Which is maybe what we'll get into now is some of the injuries and things. But it's nice to see the hybrid icing. I like to see it. It hasn't taken away from the speed of the game. I've seen some teams actually use it as an advantage. Before, you'd kind of see teams who would shoot it down if they had a guy and they would play the icing anyway. But now you see it's a little bit easier for them to beat it out because you shoot it down and all he's got to do is race to the dot. So if you shoot it up, let's say, for example, you shoot up the right side and the guy's busting up the left, he doesn't have to get over there to touch the puck. All he has to do is get to the dot. And even if he's not going to get to the puck first, they still wave it off. So I've actually noticed that a few times. Some of the teams sort of adjust to that. So I think that's kind of neat to see, a little bit of a different strategy. Now maybe jumping into some of the injuries. I mentioned Stamkos. He's only supposed to be out like 3 months or something, so he might be back for the Olympics, which would be kind of cool. It'd be nice to see.
It would be definitely nice. I think it's going to really push the timeline of his surgery and his rehab and him coming back. But I think especially because it's an Olympic year, he's going to work as hard as he can to come back. And I wouldn't actually be surprised to see him with Team Canada for the Olympics.
Yeah, and I'd like to see him for Team Canada. He's a very exciting player. He'd be great to see for Team Canada, no doubt. And I think, he's a natural center, but I think there was talk of him putting on the wing with Crosby, and how sweet would that be to see? Even on the power play.
It would be a heck of a line for sure. It's a lot of firepower.
Wicked. That would be deadly. So that'd be cool to see. Got Jonathan Quick, who just reported today is going to be out another month with a groin injury. And what's kind of helped LA is the backup goaltender there has been very well.
Actually, that's quite interesting, yeah, because unfortunately Jonathan Quick, he was definitely their starter. He's been a great goaltender. Got in injury trouble, and they brought up Ben Scrivens, who they traded with Bernier, and they got him from the Leafs. And he was always the secondary run-of-the-mill goaltender in Toronto. He showed a little bit of promise, but he never really lived up to his potential. And now, with LA getting a lot of playing time. He's leading the league in goals against average, save percentage, and shutouts. And those are basically the top three you want. And so to get that from your backup, I think you got to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exciting to see. I mean, obviously in Toronto, maybe it's the media spotlight. I don't know. You know, Toronto being the biggest hockey market, some guys you see start to not play very well there. Obviously wasn't the case with Matt Sundin. Maybe Reimer, it maybe affected him a little bit. Some things like that. I know you see Kessel getting a lot of brunt of it. Even if he is scoring, he's still getting ripped on just being, you know, the top player on that team. So maybe that affected him a little bit when he was in Toronto. Now he's in LA, bit of a different focus. He's still got full rinks every night. Still got the crowds there, but there isn't the media attention on him, especially being Quick's backup now. You know you're a backup. There's no more challenging for number one like maybe he was in Toronto. So it's nice to see him, you know, playing well. I like to see guys playing well, and I think he stepped up very well. Maybe some of the other injuries, we've got Matt Duchene. We talked a little bit about him. He's supposed to be back this weekend. Nice to see Colorado play well, even without him. You saw Nathan McKinnon step up and play well. The whole team stepped up and played well. They brought a couple of guys into the lineup who have played well. And we'll see tonight. They're back on the ice tonight, so we'll see how that goes. Other than that, any other injuries? I mean, we got the Leafs depleted down center.
Yeah, the Leafs are, unfortunately, most of their centers are gone, but they've got a lot of good play from, you know, JVR. Van Riemsdyk's been playing well, and I think the team's kind of building around this, actually. Some of the guys in the third and fourth line are getting a chance to play. They're bringing in some new guys, and it's actually, I think, a really good feel in the locker room in Toronto right now. The guys are excited to play. It always hurts having injuries on your team, of course, but I think the guys are using it to the best of their advantage for sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to them in the playoffs, actually. I hope they make it in. I'm kind of excited to watch the Leafs play. It sounds weird to say, but I'm actually kind of excited to look forward to the Leafs playing in the playoffs. Anyway, maybe we'll jump into picks. Good week for you last week. So-so week for me. You were 5-2. I was 4-3. So together above 500, which is nice to see.
It's nice to
the more
see.
we keep doing that, the better things are going to go, and the
get
happier we're
fired.
going to be throughout the season. So other than that, total record so far 26-23 for you. 3 games above.
Not
I'm
bad.
still below. Kind of making my leap. Maybe this week will be the week I go 7-0. 21-28. So I'm
You've said
7
that
back.
for 7 weeks now.
Yeah, I got 1 back last week, so that's nice to see.
All right.
Anyway, tonight we have Colorado in Phoenix to take on the Yotes.
Oof, that's a tough game. Both teams playing surprisingly fantastically. I will take Phoenix at home.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take Phoenix at home just based on Colorado had a good game against Chicago. Not saying they're not going to keep it up. They very well could. I just like Phoenix. I don't know where it came from this year, but they're playing phenomenal. Mike Smith's been playing great. I kind of look forward to him playing for Team Canada, actually.
For sure,
I'm a huge
absolutely.
fan of him, actually. So we'll see how that goes. Tomorrow night, we got Tampa Bay in Anaheim.
Oh, Anaheim running that Western Conference right now. I will stick with Anaheim to keep it going.
I'm going to agree with you. I just think this is kind of the same thing as Phoenix. They've both been phenomenal teams. It's weird to see California. Some guys go out there and play career years, and those teams play phenomenal the way they have. So I like to see Anaheim take that one at home against Tampa. The next night we have Chicago and Vancouver. This is our Saturday night game.
Nice Western Conference matchup. And Vancouver actually doing, I think, for most people, very surprisingly, with Tortorella as the coach and Luongo's having a rebound year. It's going to be a tough one, but I think Vancouver can take it.
You're going to take Vancouver at home. All right, I like to pick Vancouver. I'm going to take Chicago. I think they're going to bounce back here right away. I believe they play tonight. They play the Jets tonight. It's no more party night anymore, but that helmet incident. So, I like Chicago.
Hey, picking Chicago is
Chicago's
never
always
a bad
played well
choice.
against Vancouver, so I'll just take Chicago. The next night we have Detroit in Buffalo.
I'm going to take Detroit. I think they're starting to pull together. All the guys are pulling on the same rope. They're playing well. And Buffalo's fully rebuilding. There's not a lot happening in that city
I don't
right
want
now.
to say that's an easy pick. There's only 2 games that day, but I think it's an easy pick. We'll be disappointed if Buffalo wins, but I'll take Detroit as well. Then we move forward to Monday. We have Minnesota and St. Louis, a good Central Division matchup.
Definitely, Minnesota playing fantastic. They came back and beat the Sens earlier this week with 2 quick goals in the third. I will take Minnesota. I think they got a good chance in this one.
I like Minnesota. I'll take St. Louis, just for argument's sake. I like what St. Louis has been doing. They've been playing phenomenal. Minnesota's played great as well. St. Louis has played a great shutdown game. I watched them play the Avalanche about a week ago. It was 7-2 or something. Phenomenal game. St. Louis is a dangerous team. I've said it the last couple of years. I thought they were going to have a better year last year against in the playoffs. They lost out to LA. But St. Louis is a dangerous team, especially if they can finish high, get some easy matchups in the first round. I'd watch out for them moving forward. Anaheim and Dallas the next night. Another Western matchup.
Anaheim again running the West. And Dallas, also surprisingly, Tyler Seguin having a fantastic year. But I will take Anaheim to keep it rolling.
I take Anaheim. You know what? I'm going to agree with you. 4 picks for Anaheim this week now. Both games, we've both taken Anaheim. they're just a phenomenal team. You know, you see Getzlaff and some guys over there play phenomenal this year. Corey Perry's having a great year. You know, some great goaltending, and they're playing well. I like Anaheim as well. The final night, this is a bit of a tougher one. Next Wednesday, we have LA in San Jose.
That's a really tough one. Both the Southern United States, both those teams playing fantastically. But we mentioned Ben Scrivens filling in fantastically for Jonathan Quick, so I will take the Kings.
You're gonna take the Kings, eh? Well, I'll take San Jose. I like Joe Thornton rather. I know you had mentioned before he has 20 assists, leading the league.
He's leading the league
kind of quietly, always quietly. Joe Thornton
having a bit of a rebound year for him. He's kind of slowed down a little bit as he's gotten a little bit older, which is understandable. But he's running the league right now, so
he's playing great. I like San Jose in that one. But anyway, that pretty much wraps up picks. Look forward to a great week of hockey.
It'll be another good one.
Another Grey Cup on Sunday, which will be exciting to watch. But other than that, it pretty much wraps it up.
That's all.
Jordan Peca, Jaret Schneider. You're watching Hockey Talk on Shaw TV, and thanks for watching.